Hey and welcome, I'm Hammeh. A little bit of Overwatch news for you today. There are some new patch notes in testing on the PTR late September 2016, some interesting news on a bit of a nerf or balance to Ana, as well as some changes to Widow, Junkrat, a little bit of a tweak to Reinhardt, as well as something on Hanzo, and then a whole bunch of quality of life upgrades. Remember, these are all in testing at the moment. Let's quickly run through them and what some of them might mean if they hit the live servers. First, we've got a change to Ana, a little bit of a nerf or balance if you will. Her nano boost cost is going to be going up by 20% for her ultimate, but her biotic grenade is going to get a larger radius from 3 to 4 meters as a change. Developer reasons for this, they think they haven't seen any indication that Ana is too strong, but her ultimate charge is in their opinion a little too fast, especially, quote, considering the impact it can have on a match. Also, her biotic grenade is getting a small boost to help her hit multiple targets. So a bit of an interesting one this. Ana's ult did charge very quickly with the right composition and right situation. There's been quite a popular strategy in eSports recently, you may have seen it on some other channels, 3 tanks and 3 supports. So you run a Reinhardt, a Winston and a Xayah, and then Ana, Lucio and Zenyatta. So it's kind of known as the NIP strategy for Ninjas in Pyjamas. If you're a Counter-Strike fan like me, then you'll know Ninjas in Pyjamas as being an eSport organisation with a long history in that game. They've also got an Overwatch team who popularised this in the recent meta. So this strategy revolved around grabbing 3 tanks, 3 supports, the 3 tanks sponging damage and Ana healing them as quickly as possible. You can get an Ana ult charged in 30 seconds. You then nano boost the Reinhardt, and on attack, where you generally see this most, if the opponents are unaware or running a 2-2-2, 2 tanks, 2 DPS and 2 support composition, they could be steamrolled and then the momentum could snowball. I think this is a bit of an interesting one. Ana's ult does charge very quickly, but I put it in the camp of mercies as well. However, it can be countered and it can be worked against. People can try focus the Ana, and against the NIP composition of the 3 tanks and 3 supports, there are ways of countering it. It all depends on how coordinated the team is, whether it's a surprise and how quickly they can turn around. So I'm not 100% sure personally that this one is necessary. At the moment, it's not as though we see 3-3s running around. Certainly in in-game competitive and in quick play, I don't think it's really a change that's going to do a huge amount. I mean, have you seen a big bunch of Ana nano boosting compositions steamrolling you every single time? I don't think it's that widespread. In esports, I know that some pros have been saying that it's a little bit of a challenging comp. However, I think it's one of those things that can ebb and flow, and this may certainly see it decrease in popularity if it gets to live. As for the biotic grenade, again, in a lot of situations where your team have really grouped up, you don't really need a huge extra range to hit Ana's targets because some people naturally clump up in places anyway. I find that when I'm playing Ana, I know when people are going to be clumped, and it's good to try and either heal my team with a grenade or try and get a whole melee of enemy team and my team in one grenade in one go. So this will mean that Ana can certainly sit a little bit further from the action with her grenades and also hopefully catch another couple of targets, but again, not sure that it's really going to be a huge quality of life change. We'll have to wait and see. Next up, Widow gets a little tweak. Her scoping animation has been made a little faster from half a second down to 0.3 of a second. The goal? Trying to help Widowmaker acquire new targets more quickly and speed up her reaction time in fast-paced situations. So Widow's still been used for the occasional pick, but she's definitely not as widespread as she used to be since she's got quite a few heavy tweaks to her quick scoping, and also the way in which her rifle does scoped in damage. This will help Widow acquire targets more quickly for sure. I can see the developer reasoning there. As for how much more viable this is going to make Widow, we'll have to wait and see. Certainly being able to acquire targets a bit more quickly and react when people are moving is definitely going to be useful. She did feel a little bit sluggish, so she will certainly feel better, and I know that for excellent Widow players or people who can aim, unlike myself, it's going to be able to help with them grabbing a few more targets. We'll see how she goes. Junkrat gets a bit of a tweak. His Riptire is now going to activate more quickly. Developer reasoning for this, Riptire felt underpowered when compared to his counterparts, pretty much ultimate wise. Now we've seen this ultimate justification as a reason for tweaking up other heroes' ultimates in the past, and this is definitely a dev train of thinking. They want all ultimates to feel satisfying and feel, if not balanced in directly how they do in effect, then of equal power, and this is definitely a thing we've seen a bit. So I get this with Junkrat. Now Junkrat's Riptire, a good team when they know it's coming in and when they know the angle from which it's coming from, can turn around and shred it. It's the Junkrat unexpected or untracked tires that are the most dangerous. So at coordinated levels of play, Riptire is markedly less effective than in a quick play where maybe people aren't coordinating and looking which way the tire is going to be coming from, calling out the ultimate when they hear the enemy ability and similar. So I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how much more quickly this is. Going to jump in on PTR, give it a little bit of a go. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think this is necessary? I think we're certainly going to see a little bit more Riptiring running around. Hanzo gets a bit of a tweak now. I think this is a long overdue one. The Dragon Strike line with Akami and Lone Wolf skin is actually being cranked up in terms of volume when it sounds off. Now there was an argument here, and a lot of people did use the Lone Wolf or Akami skin because, quite frankly, the volume of his ult warning when it was played was a lot more quiet compared to the other one if you were listening out for it. So it was a minor advantage, one of those things that's kind of borderline. If people aren't listening or if there's a lot of noise in them, maybe they'd miss the Hanzo ult coming off. So this is just a quick little more balance. Pretty fair, I think. A nice little tweak for Reinhardt. It's quite a passive one, but the voice line he has saying that barrier is giving out when his shield is getting low is now going to play more frequently. A lot of people have made calls for Ryan to get more tweaks. For example, there's one popular one that goes around saying that instead of group up with me, it should say get behind my shield. So a lot of Reinhardt players on their radial communications and their passive comms, outside of voice comms, want more options. So this is an easy way of making sure that Reinhardt's team is quickly informed while the Reinhardt player can get on with the business of tanking and focusing when their shield's going to go down. There you go, that's it for the heroes. There's a couple of other interesting changes I just want to pull out. There's an interesting one with quality of life, particularly with regards to spectating in custom games. So you can now have static cameras in custom games, and there have been tweaks to make the camera movement in Spectator better. Now, as a content creator and as someone who's tried observing in sort of esports and tournament play before, I love this one. This is going to make it really, really interesting for tournament producers and for people to use static cameras to be able to give different views of the action without having to pan someone around in spectator mode floating around as a ghost each time. So this is going to make the esports production a lot better and a lot more interesting in terms of visuals. Camera movement in spec, well, it can be a little bit clunky, get caught on corners and things, so these changes are really good for Overwatch. Hopefully as an esport, it's going to be interesting to see what tournament producers do to make your broadcast look that little bit more interesting. Custom games can also now be paused, so this is again for esports really important. If a player drops and a pause is called, then that drop player can be given some time to reconnect. This is standard in things like CSGO, and in Overwatch this was annoying because you'd have to play on if the map was a certain amount of the way through, depending on the tournament rules. That meant that a player drop for any particular reason could really impact a game when perhaps it didn't really need to. So again, this is going to make esports games that bit more fair and a bit more interesting. Minor changes, team names are now editable in custom games, so you can have team names display in different ways at the top of the map. That would be pretty fun as well. A few bug fixes. Interesting one here, enemy players knocked down are now no longer going to lose their red outlines. So for those of you who have wondered where people have gone when a knockdown has happened outside of your vision range a bit, it's going to make it that much easier for you to track the enemy team. Some visual tweaks, and I know that this is going to be a big, serious, impacting one for a lot of people. A bug that allowed Widowmaker to grappling hook basketballs, I'm sorry, has now been fixed. This is going to sadden a lot of people who love slinging Widowmakers off the map with flying basketballs. You know who you are. Final interesting one for you console players, you have not been forgotten about. This is being tweaked, and I'll definitely try to give this a go on PC as well as maybe on Xbox. There's now 2 controller aiming modes, so the new default is dual zone. Outside, on the outer 10% of your stick range, it's going to go to high sensitivity and low acceleration. So this means that at the outer range of your stick, when you pushed it further away from the center, you can have more precise aiming, but it still gives you the ability to turn quickly, as inside the vast majority of the range it will be reduced sensitivity and high acceleration. So you've now got 2 zones. You've got a more accurate outer zone aiming mode and then a quick turning kind of usual console feel inner mode. There's also the usual one. The current default is called Exponential ramp mode. As the thumbstick moves towards the outside, the further it goes, the higher the sensitivity goes, but the acceleration is relatively high throughout. So that should give console players hopefully a few more options with precision aiming whilst being able to turn it a little bit more quickly. Do give that one a go, console players, and let us know what you think. Finally, a couple of map tweaks. There's been a fix on a bug that allowed the payload to heal players even when they were negatively affected by Ana's biotic grenade. Now that's quite an interesting one. Dancing around the payload even when you've been debuffed by an enemy Ana would apparently get you a few healing points back. That's one of those things that I've probably not even noticed, but yeah, that makes a lot more sense with Ana's biotic grenade. Less hiding from the payload, maybe a few more kills there. What do you think of those changes? Do you think these changes to Ana are necessary? Have you seen Ana dominating games in the right compositions in your quick play, in your competitive? And what do you think about the Widow tweaks? Is she going to be more viable? Is Junkrat's tyre going to be a little bit better and a bit more used? Do let us know in the comments. Cheers for tuning in, folks. Lore videos are going to be dropping again in the next few days. Thank you very much for your patience. Hero lore and voice lines, if it's not back this week, we'll be back first thing next week. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Take it easy.